Hi everyone. In today's video lecture, we're going to study the next part, the second part of type 1 hypersensitive reaction. In the earlier video, we have discussed about what is the definition of type 1 hypersensitive reaction, what is the antibody that causes. Then we have discussed about terms like atopy. We have discussed about the different mediators that is going to cause these reactions. And we have also discussed the events that leads to your type 1 hypersensitive reaction. In today's video, we will discuss about its examples. Now, type 1 hypersensitive reactions can be of two types. It is going to be of systemic anaphylaxis or it can be your localized anaphylaxis. The systemic anaphylaxis when the whole body is under the attack, and localized anaphylaxis when it is basically restricted to certain tissues or organs. First of all, let us discuss about the systemic anaphylaxis. The systemic anaphylaxis is often a shock-like state, or it can, and mostly it is a fatal state which is going to occur immediately after the individual is exposed to the allergen. Now, it was found that systemic anaphylaxis can be induced in a variety of animals, and it is occasionally seen in humans, and it is characterized by similar sequence of events as was observed in animals. So what happens when an animal is exposed to the allergen? When the animal is exposed to the allergen, within minutes, the animal can become restless, the animal breathes very rapidly, and the blood pressure is also going to drop. So these are the sequence of events basically that happens. Another sequence of events that we have discussed earlier is about smooth muscle contraction. So when these mediators are released, it is also going to cause smooth muscle contraction of the gastrointestinal tract and the urinary bladder, which is going to lead to defecation and urination. And finally, what is going to happen? Because of bronchoconstriction, the animal is going to die. Now, we have already discussed what is bronchoconstriction. It is nothing but it is a constriction of the bronchioles, which is going to obstruct the movement of air. Now, all these reactions are seen basically because of the release of pharmacologically active mediators, and which is going to cause the tissue damaging type 1 hypersensitive reaction. Now, if such reactions are occurring in case of humans, how to treat those humans then? We are going to treat those humans with a dose of epinephrine or adrenaline. Now, why epinephrine or adrenaline? Because these epinephrine or adrenaline is going to counteract the effects of the mediators, obviously by relaxing the smooth muscle contraction and reducing vascular permeability. It is also going to improve the cardiac output, thereby bringing the heartbeat to its normal. Next one is the localized anaphylaxis. Now, localized anaphylaxis, as I mentioned before, it is localized to certain tissues or organs. It is not attacking or affecting the entire body. That's why it is called as localized. Especially, it occurs in the region where the allergen has entered. Now, atopic allergies, which includes are rhinitis, which is also called as hay fever, and it is related to upper respiratory tract. Second one is asthma, which is related to the lower respiratory tract. Then we have food allergies, and finally we have eczema. Eczema is related to skin, so it is also a dermatitis problem. Now let us discuss two of the very important examples of your localized anaphylaxis. The first one is rhinitis, or it is otherwise called as hay fever. Now it is an upper respiratory tract disorder, as I mentioned before. Hay fever usually results due to a reaction between the airborne allergen and the sensitized mast cells that we have in our nostrils and in the conjunctiva. Remember sensitized mast cells? So these mast cells already they have IgE bound to the receptors on their surface. Now the second time when the same allergen enters, what is going to happen? It is going to cause cross-linking of these IgE sitting on these cells, and that is going to lead to degranulation. So these reactions they basically occur in the conjunctiva and the nasal mucosa. Then what is going to happen once it leads to cross-linking? It is going to lead to degranulation of the membrane of mast cells and basophils, which is going to release a lot of mediators. And what these mediators are going to do? These mediators are going to cause localized vasodilation and increase in vascular permeability. Now let us discuss what are the symptoms we can see in rhinitis or hay fever. Symptoms may include watery release from the conjunctiva. That means we are going to have water coming out of our eyes. Then we're going to have runny nose. So water is also going to come out from the nasal mucosa and the upper respiratory tract, as well as we are going to sneeze a lot and cough. So these are the common symptoms which is seen in case of people having rhinitis or hay fever. Now many people they complain about having allergies towards dust. It is dust allergy. They sneeze a lot, then a lot of water comes out of the nasal mucosa. So that is what is called as the rhinitis or hay fever. So this is a picture that depicts a a rhinitis or hay fever. So you're going to have red, itchy, watery eyes, all right, sneezing and congestion, runny nose. A lot of mucus is going to come out from your nose also, itchy or sore throat, postnatal, nasal drip cough. So these are certain symptoms of hay fever or rhinitis. And as I mentioned before, these are actually runs in the family, so it is partly genetic. And these people, they have abnormally high levels of IgE in their bloodstream. Next example is asthma. Now we all know asthma is nothing but it is a breathing problem. People experience is not a breathing problem. Occasionally, that is called as asthma. Now it is a lower respiratory tract disorder, unlike your rhinitis, which was upper respiratory tract disorder. Now asthma can be caused because of two reasons. Either it is caused by the allergen which is present in the air or allergen present in the blood, then it is called as allergic asthma. Or asthma can also be caused because of cold or excessive exercise, so that is called as the non-allergic asthma. Now, just like your rhinitis, even asthma is triggered by degranulation of the membranes of basophils and mast cells in the lower respiratory tract that is going to release a lot of pharmacologically active mediators. And what these mediators are going to do, especially they're going to cause bronchoconstriction. Now, we have come across bronchoconstriction before also. What is bronchoconstriction? It is a constriction of the bronchioles, which is going to, obstruct the airway. The airway is not only obstructed because of bronchoconstriction, it is also obstructed because of edema. And the term edema means accumulation of fluid. What kind of fluid is going to accumulate then? Lot of mucus is going to get accumulated, and that is going to block the airway. And that is why the person is going to experience a lot of breathing problems. Now, asthmatic response can be divided into two phases. One is called the early phase, another one is the late phase. Let us discuss what are these. Early phase occurs within minutes of allergen exposure, and the mediators which are mostly involved in early phase are your histamine, prostaglandins, and leukotrienes. And what these mediators are going to do? These mediators are going to cause bronchoconstriction, vasodilation, and lot of mucus secretion. So a lot of mucus is getting secreted because of these mediators. So this is all about the early response. So you have to remember it occurs within minutes of allergen exposure. And what are the mediators that are involved in it? These are histamine, prostaglandins, and leukotrienes. And these mediators are going to cause bronchoconstriction and a lot of mucus secretion. So these are important. So this is what happens. So these are the bronchioles. So this is a normal airway. Can you see it is quite widened? Now smooth muscles, they start contracting. Can you see the smooth muscles are getting contracted? So because of which DC, can you see now? The diameter of the airway has decreased, okay? And see, a lot of mucus secretion is also there, and which is going to block the airway. And that is when the person is going to have, trouble in breathing. So that was the early response, which occurs within minutes. Now, what is the late response now? Late response is going to occur hours later. And in this case, the pharmacologically active mediators which are mostly involved are your cytokines only. So I have given you examples like we have IL-4, we have IL-5, we have IL-6, we have tumor necrosis factor alpha and eosinophil chemotactic factor. So these are certain cytokines which is going to cause your late response of asthma. And this late response occurs hours later after the early response. Now, what are the effects of these mediators? These are going to increase endothelial cell adhesion molecule. All right. Now, why these endothelial cell adhesion molecules are important? Because if these cell adhesion molecules are increased, then the cells, the phagocytic cells, can bind to it, and they can get transported from the bloodstream towards the affected tissue. All right. So this is the first effect that these mediators going to have. So what is the first effect? It is going to increase the number of cell adhesion molecules. And plus also it is involved in chemotaxis of cells like neutrophils and eosinophils. Now we know what is chemotaxis is nothing but it is the attraction of certain cells in response to certain chemicals. Now what are the chemicals that is causing attractions? These are the chemicals. These are the mediators. And what cells are getting attracted? The phagocytic cells. That is number one is neutrophil and second one is eosinophil. So once these neutrophils and eosinophil, they reach the site of infection or they reach the site of allergen entry, then what they're going to do is they're going to release lytic enzymes. All right, so they're going to release a lot of lytic enzymes into the surrounding tissue, which is going to cause extensive tissue damage. And what kind of tissue damage they're going to cause? Because of which, what happens is the bronchial lumen is blocked with mucus, proteins, Then there is a thickening of basement membrane and edema. Edema, as I mentioned before, it is the uh, accumulation of fluid, and as a result of which a mucus plug is basically formed, and that attaches to the bronchial valve. Now, all these events are going to, decrease the diameter of the bronchial, or they're going to block the airway, as a result of which the person having asthmatic attack experiences lot of breathing problem. So these are the examples of your type 1 hypersensitive reactions, in which we have discussed two types. One was the systemic anaphylaxis, in which case the entire body is affected. And the second one is localized anaphylaxis, in which case only certain localized tissues or certain organs is basically affected. And under localized anaphylaxis, we have discussed two examples. One is the hay fever or rhinitis, that is related to your upper respiratory tract. The second one is your asthma, which is the lower respiratory tract, that includes the lungs and the bronchioles. Thank you.